Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Interview with Time in Q&A Corner, presented by High Tech U, an initiative of the University of Victoria's Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. My name is Andrew. I'm so excited to be back as your host for another awesome interview. I am, as always, super thrilled to introduce you to our guest for today in just a moment, because I know that's really who you have all come to see, or who you are here on YouTube. If you're catching this on YouTube, to learn a little bit more about. So if you are here on YouTube, you'll be able to jump ahead to where the good stuff starts. But for those of you who are here on Twitch, and this is maybe your first time on Q&A Corner, just want to give you a little bit of a rundown on the way that things work. So you are here on Q&A Corner, interactive industry interviews. We are the interviewers. We have industry people who are our guests, and you are the interactive piece. So as we're going through the interview, if you're catching this on Twitch, you can throw questions in the chat, which is probably over there, or it's down there, or maybe up there or over there. I'm not really sure where your chat is, but there is chat, and you can submit questions that way. If you're catching this on YouTube, guess what? It's still interactive because we've got comments there as well. So please, if you've got comments or questions, send them, and I'll make sure that our guests get those answers to you in some way through the magic of the interwebs. So we are here today with a very special guest from one of the, interestingly enough, probably one of the most important companies when it comes to High Tech U, Dyspatch, formerly known as Send With Us, who was one of the sort of founding industry partners for High Tech U back in the day a few years ago. And our guest today is a fantastic member of that team who also happens to have been involved in a lot of other really cool youth outreach and engagement events that I've been part of. And so I've had the chance to connect with them a lot. And so I'm really excited that they're here on the stream with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up the person that you're here to see, Vero Best. How's it going, Vero?
Hi, Andrew. It's so good to see you. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. You're coming to us live from I'm sure this must be the Dyspatch offices. The whole company is based out of your house, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Dyspatch last summer, we moved to fully remote, so everybody's house is now the Dyspatch office. We still have our office in downtown Victoria, BC, but this is my home office. Normally there'd be a dog here, but he ditched me. He has another job in the afternoons, I think.
Fair enough. It's all right. We will try and make up for it. So Vero, I'm so thrilled to have you here on the stream. I'm always excited to have all the guests on the stream, but I'm particularly excited because I gotta say, we've done a lot of interviews with developers and people who are working in CEO positions. Personally, I think your job is the coolest job that exists in tech. And that's saying something because there's a lot of cool jobs in tech. So I'm super excited to have you on the stream to share exactly what the heck a product, a head of product, a product director, product manager does with our audience, and to just kind of answer some questions. Really, at the end of the day, this is more for me, and everybody else can get some benefit out of it, but this is really just my geeking out over product design.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm happy to start wherever you like, but product is the thing that I'm most familiar with in tech, although I've worked in all kinds of different tech company sizes. So I like to think that after about a decade, I know the industry pretty well. Changes all the time, but yeah, I'm one of the dinosaurs who's been here a long time now.
I was going to say 10 years is a long time in the tech sector.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's do our chronological journey through your adventure, and maybe just like a little bit of like general background about yourself. And this is like ulterior motives. I'm going to do some background checking to make sure that all the video and audio is working while this is going on, and then I'll just like throw you up on the main screen so you can talk, and then I'll come back in a minute. So just tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sounds good. So I'll let you tinker with that. I've had pretty much every job you mentioned in that intro. So I started out at a really small startup in Vancouver, BC, an online dating website. I didn't even know my job existed at the time. I just finished my master's degree and I was like, oh no, I gotta get a job. And so I applied for customer service positions and I was hired at this little startup. And the CEO needed somebody who could help translate the site into other languages. And I speak French. So that's part of why I was hired. And I had a degree in art history. And so he was like, cool, like you can help us make sure that the site looks good. Like I'm not a designer by training at all, but I managed to convince him that I had a degree in looking at things and somehow that resonated. And I was there in the early days when there were no mobile apps. Like if you could imagine online dating being like desktop only, like nothing on your phone. I mean, you could open up the website on your phone, but that was pretty much the whole like mobile experience. And in the time that I was there, I also became a mobile product manager. So what we did is we launched the apps first iPhone, then Android. For a while, we had an app for Windows Phone, believe it or not. It's like back in the day when that was the third platform. And since then, I've held roles at all kinds of different companies doing all kinds of stuff. It's one of the things I love about product is that you can change industries every time you change job if you want. So I worked for a small startup that was acquired by Intel Inc. that made instruments for activity tracking. So like basically the wearables IoT space. We had hardware and software teams at that company. I worked for SoundCloud, the world's largest audio platform in Berlin, where we basically tried to help creators find an audience. So find listeners, find a fan base, figuring out where their fans were in the world, and basically convince them to upload all their music to SoundCloud. And a couple of years ago, I moved back to Victoria and I joined Dyspatch. And Dyspatch is great. I joined a really small team, so we got to build out how product and design and engineering were going to work together. And a big part of what we've done now is help big companies send email. And like email's older than the internet, it's hard to do well. And what we offer is that you can build emails without having to be like expert at coding or write code at all. And when I saw what Dyspatch was doing, and I thought back to like the previous companies where I worked, I was like, if we'd had this would have made a material difference for us to have this tool. So now I'm at Dyspatch, and that's what we're doing, building email production at scale. And my role here is director of product. And so all that means is that I do product manager work, and then I work with a team of like really skilled experts in product and in design to help make sure that we build the right thing that our users need and are willing to pay for, so that the company's successful, essentially. I know you have more questions about that, so maybe I'll make that the short intro and see where that takes us.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. That's good. Yes, I have lots of questions. But our first question of the day, Sixers fan is back. This is our viewer that I was saying is like here for all of our streams. So super exciting. And there's a question in the chat. And I'm gonna maybe reframe this a little bit more. But the specific question is like, what obstacles did you have to face to become a director at Dyspatch? And maybe that's just like to become the role that you're in, maybe it's at Dyspatch specifically, but I'll leave it to you to kind of define how you want to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, the role of director is different in that you take on more responsibility, but I see the main difference is that as a product manager, you're always thinking about company strategy, and at the director level, you're responsible for company strategy. So that's like the big difference is that if things don't work out, it's kind of on you. The biggest obstacles that I faced at Dyspatch specifically are that we're a very small company. So right now, I think we have like 25 employees, but we have huge goals and aspirations. We have really big customers, and we have what I consider to be like a world-class product in email production. We handle localizations for like 120 locales for companies like Sony PlayStation. We have customers all around the world in Australia and Germany, in the US. And we have to do a lot with a really small team, which forces us to be very nimble and very strategic about what we prioritize. So it's not so much an obstacle as a challenge, but that constant rethinking of like, are we working on the most important thing? Is this going to work? What's the smallest version of a feature that we could build to make sure that our customers get what they need to be successful without spending too long on it? Like those are the kinds of questions that are the biggest challenges when you're at a small startup, because we can't really invest 6 months into building something new. There's competitors, they're also doing work, they're knocking on the door. And I think what we're doing is unique and fantastic, but it's always a challenge to stay ahead of what's going on in the market.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. Thank you for that. So I'm super curious about this because I don't know. I love design. Like, I think the process is fascinating of just like user-centric thinking. Oh, look at that. See, I'm not going to get a chance to ask my questions today, which is great. So I don't know if you're seeing the question in the chat. Question is, did you have a post-secondary in high school? And if so, what have a post-secondary in high school? I'm not, do you want to try that again, Sixers fan?
Or maybe I'll just...
Yeah, just try.
I think I got it. So,
all right.
In high school, I didn't really know what I was going to do in university. And when I went to university for my undergrad, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do economics. That sounded like a good idea to my parents at the time. And I was interested in what that was. Did a couple years of that. And I quickly realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do for 4 years or long-term, required a lot of math anyway. And I took an intro to art history course and I loved it. So I ended up doing that for my undergrad. And then UVic offered me a really good master's offer, basically like a scholarship and then a job as a TA for 2 years. That TA jobs are amazing. When you're a student, they pay very well and they allow you to explore a new area of research. And for me, that was like film, which I loved. So I also did a master's degree, and that's when I started looking for a job, was after I finished my master's. Post-secondary interest. In post-secondary, like, honestly, until I started working in tech, I didn't even know that my job existed, like I mentioned. And I think I was always interested in tech and technology. Like, I liked, new apps, new phones, knowing what's going on in the industry, but I didn't know that I could actually make it a job because I didn't have a CS degree. And I just wasn't aware that there were so many options in tech for folks who aren't, who aren't technical or who don't have a computer science degree.
Awesome. Thank you. That was great. That was great translation as well. So I'll jump in quickly before Sixers fan or another person gets in on the chat because I really want to know the answer to this question. So you're not a tech person. So how do you do your job? How do you figure out what customers want? Like, what does that process look like for you if, say, you're figuring out a new feature?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different every time, but we tend to look at the same few inputs. So the main thing is to make sure that we're building the right thing for the right people. And so a lot of what we do is actually talking to customers directly, asking our customers how they're using the product, what would make their lives easier in the product, and what it is about our product that they really like, or pain points. And then we also look at what they're actually doing in the product in a quantitative way. So we have analytics that tell us they say that this feature is the most important thing to them, but they're only using it once or twice a month. Why is that? Maybe actually figuring out what it is that leads to engagement or not. So the biggest thing is figuring out what customers need and then talking to them or analyzing what they're doing. But then there's this whole other aspect of the job that I love, and that's the, like research, kind of like strategy, critical thinking side of it. And that's looking at what competitors are doing and asking myself, like, did they actually do research before they did that? Or is that just a test that they're running, to decide whether we want to try a similar test? Looking what's going on in adjacent industries that maybe aren't email production, but what about, for us, for example, I like to look at what services like WordPress are doing, because they have a no code, or Squarespace. You can basically create a web page with no code, just similar to what we're doing in email. Talking to folks on the rest of the team, I think, is really valuable for product folks. Like, product isn't the expert in any one thing. I love to speak to experts in engineering and in marketing and in sales, particularly on the sales and marketing side. They're potentially talking to people who might be a customer down the road. What are they saying about the product? So taking inputs that you get from all different parts of the industry or from the company, and then analyzing all this information and saying, what do we think will have the most impact? And then deciding what to do next from there. That's basically like the nutshell of how you decide what you should be working on and what to do later. Or maybe never.
I love that. So I want to jump back to Sixers fans question, but I'm curious, like, have you had features that everybody on the team has thought were going to be brilliant and that you've just been like, everybody's in love with, and then the data shows that like nobody cares about it and you've had to drop it, but you've invested so much time into it? Has that ever happened?
Oh, I think it happens all the time. And the concept of like escalating commitment, which is an economic thing, really applies too, where the more you invest in something, the more you want it to work. And so you finish it instead of like abandoning it partway and cutting your losses. I don't have any examples at Dyspatch because we've been pretty careful about releasing things that are really small and then iterating on them instead of investing up front and having something not work. But I remember when I worked in online dating, we built a feature that was, we called it date night, where two people on the app, if they both said they're available for a date on Friday, the app would pair them and be like, look, both of you are actually available to go on a date. You should talk to each other and set it up. And it turned out that it didn't work at all because people wanted to have a chance to message each other and like form a connection before they actually went on a date. And we worked on this thing. There was a whole design for it. We implemented it. And within a few weeks, we realized we had to pull it because nobody was using it. And the main thing there is to like always just be looking forward, right? Some things don't work. What we did learn is how to build a feature like that will actually be successful in the future. And that's the lesson in product, is to never look back, just analyze what you can, figure out what the lesson is, and then apply that to the next iteration, the next feature, the next bit of functionality that you're adding, and just be informed by it moving forward.
I love that. Okay, so question from Sixers fan. We'll jump back over there. So what was your dream job with the career that you were interested in? So what had been like the end goal for you? And just so you know, I'm going to give it, Sixers fan is like super psyched about being an aerospace engineer. So they're asking some questions about like trying to figure out their direction.
Yeah. Okay, here's a plot twist for you. When I was in university, I worked for a float plane company. I did it because I loved riding the float planes, and they were hiring, and I was like, cool, maybe I get to ride in a float plane for free. So I worked for them for multiple summers, doing like check-in and load control stuff. And I kind of had like an open job offer to work for them after I graduated from my master's, and I really thought that was going to be my job. Was like work at the float plane company, work my way up. And right before I finished my master's, I got a call from the woman who would have been my boss to say like, hey, like, the company got acquired. We don't have this job open anymore. Kind of like long story short, the whole thing fell through. And so I started looking for a job. And that's how I landed my first job in tech. But I think if that hadn't happened, who knows, I may be working for an airline or a float plane company. That would have been cool too. I think I would have been really happy with it, but it just, life takes you places you don't expect,
It definitely does. As a side note, which I don't think I've ever said before, so I was back in the day, I used Plenty of Fish, that first company that you got hired for, but like when it actually looked anywhere, it was like the Craigslist of dating services. Back in the day. And you know what? That was actually a little bit endearing, but only to a certain extent.
You want to hear a funny story about that?
I would love to hear a funny story.
People like to talk about how like you evaluate a service by its design. Well, it's just like the Craigslist of dating, and Craigslist is like the Craigslist of Craigslist. But the reason that they haven't changed it, you might think is like because they don't want to spend the money to change it or all these other reasons. But often those designs actually work the best. And once you start making things really fancy, it becomes really hard to find what you're looking for. It's like, every time Instagram moves buttons around, people like freak. They're like, this doesn't work. It takes me way too long to like find the thing I'm looking for. And I definitely like deeply empathize with that as a user of all these platforms. But sometimes the utilitarian, like stripped down, ugly version is actually the most useful in terms of utility. It's like the fastest to use. And when you're using Craigslist, it's kind of like online dating. Like you want to be able to find what you're looking for right away and do things quickly and never make a mistake. So sometimes these fancy designs, like they don't actually lend themselves well to that. I think you should be able to achieve both, like beautiful, fantastic design and highly utilitarian. But yeah, sometimes the Craigslist of something is actually the approach that works the best for the user and for the business.
It's true. And I think it's interesting. I had a conversation with a computer science instructor. She got a master's of computer science from UVic. She's an amazing, amazing computer science instructor here in Victoria. And she said to me, she's like, I don't teach a lot of the modern web development stuff because it's so hard, because it's so focused on like all of these extra frameworks. Like everybody wants things to look really beautiful, but it takes so long to get it to work, or it takes so much extra knowledge that you end up with this beautiful thing that has a tiny bit of the functionality that you actually wanted, rather than having a thing that has all the functionality but is super ugly. But it's easier to iterate on something that's ugly and make it look prettier than it is to have something really pretty that then doesn't like meet the customer's standards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the foundation for a lot of decisions that we make, for, especially in tech where there are like potentially millions of people using your product, should always be, what's the user trying to do here, right? What is their goal in using your service? Why did they come today? Whether you're like the government of Canada with an online portal for, signing up for, what's a good example, like signing up for COVID alerts or something like that, or whether you're Instagram sending a push notification, like the question should always be, what's the person actually trying to achieve? Why are they here today? Let's make that the top priority, not anything else, not ads, not promoting our own brand, not inviting other people. Like, let's just let them do the thing that they came to do and then do everything else as a secondary priority. At least that's been my philosophy.
I love that. So we've got some new viewers on the stream. So if they've just happened in here, I want to give them kind of a rundown what's going on. So hey, new viewers that are on the stream and new chatters that are on the stream. You're here with High Tech U Q&A corner. We are here with Vero Best. Oh, I'm pointing the right way. That never happens. With Vero Best, director of product at Dyspatch. She is talking all things what it's like to work in the tech industry on the product side of things. So if you've got questions, she's got answers about what that experience looks like. See, I always do the opposite way. I've been doing this for a while now. You'd think I would have figured it out, but it has yet to happen. So if you got questions, throw it in the chat, which should be over there or down there or maybe up there. If you're catching this on YouTube, I'm not sure why you skipped this far ahead, but you're still going to listen to me, so you can go back or forwards. Either way, we're going to keep talking about product things because I'm super interested. What does that look like in practice for you? So, like, what's a day in the life of Vero, the director of product at Dyspatch? That's not like, I have this meeting with somebody, although maybe that's important, but like, what are the processes you use? What are the tools you use? Like, what does that actual process of building out those features look like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't talk about tools much because in my experience, the tools change every 2 to 5 years. There are new tools and they become more useful than the old tools. We phase them out, right? Like what I was using 5 years ago is different than what I use now, and also changes at every company. So the main thing about product is being flexible and being open to use any kind of tool. Right now, our company uses Asana. It's like a to-do list with a lot of really fancy features. And we even use that to track development work instead of a tool called Jira. I like it because the entire company uses the same tool. And so you can see what every team is doing and working on, and you can cross-assign tasks across different teams. It's super flexible, which is great. A big part of what I do is look at the progress of the projects we're working on and then try to anticipate what's going to come next. So some of that is working with the designers to make sure that we have requirements set out so that they can work on a design for an upcoming feature. Some of that is doing interviews to recruit the next generation of folks who are going to join the Dyspatch team. So actually interviewing for roles on our team or on another team. Some of that is looking at what competitors are doing, either through their emails on their website, taking screenshots, sharing that with the rest of the team to see what they're doing. A lot of that is looking at the performance of the work that we've done. So for us, it's one of our big customers. How many templates did they export? Email templates did they export today? So looking at that number, okay, how does that compare to last month? How are they doing? What would make that easier for them? If I see the number go down, maybe we reach out to them and talk to them. I do have meetings. Obviously, it's like part of working, especially remote. I think meetings are a nice way to keep in touch with people and not feel so alone at home all the time. But a lot of the meetings are about strategizing on what to do next and then checking in. So I meet regularly with folks in sales and marketing to say, what are leads saying about the website when we demo it to them, and using that to inform some of the decision-making coming up. And then I write a lot of documentation. So people who are into product, like if you're interested in product, 2 things. One is context changes must definitely be your thing, because I think that makes the job a lot easier if you're comfortable with quick context changes, and then documenting everything. So every meeting has meeting notes. Every project has a product brief where we outline the requirements. Every task that another team member will work on, from an engineer to a designer, needs to be outlined and written, and usually it's product doing that. So I spend a lot of time writing stuff down, which is great because it means I can go on vacation and nobody has to call me and ask me a question because I usually wrote it somewhere.
I love it. So I want to show you, so when I was, again, I love product management. In another life, I see myself as one. I assume that I would be as terrible at that as I am at what I do right now. But I found this, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm interested in your take. And I'll zoom in so you can see. But this, like, have you seen this before? Oh, you can't see. Hold on. There we go. Now it's up there. I came across this, which is like when you look up like what is a product manager, this is kind of what it shows you. Is this an accurate representation of what your job is, or are there more overlapping circles?
This is a great one. I think this one's from Martin Erickson. It's a pretty good representation. I can define a few things here. So like business would be what the CEO wants, or what like the executive team says is important. That would be like trends, right? Like product marketing, that kind of thing. Technology might be engineers. It'll often include like data and design as well. And then the customer, theoretically, or not theoretically, in a lot of cases, you would say that product represents the customer. So it's our job to come in and speak for the customer, because the customer can't be in our meetings at Dyspatch, so like somebody needs to put on their customer hat, and typically that's product. I think this is pretty accurate, not because product is the most important thing of all those functions, but because all those functions do need to work together. And a lot of what product does is make sure that, there's like cross-functional alignment. I'm sure that's a buzzword, but ultimately, if all the teams in the company are talking to each other and sharing insights, we're going to build the best possible product. So this diagram, I think, is a pretty good representation.
So I'm curious, like, what is the difference? Because I feel like a lot of people will have heard the term project management, and there may be this like confusion between what project management is and what product management is, or maybe they are the same. Like, what's the biggest difference between those two? Is it that all product managers are project managers, but not all project managers are product managers?
Well,
there was a lot of words.
Yeah, there's a really straightforward answer that I like to give, and project management is about answering these questions. Who is doing what and by when? So it's, do we have the right people around to do this? Like, we need engineers. Do we have engineers on the team? Doing what? Do we know what the requirements are? Is the project spec'd? And then by when is is there a timeline? Can we achieve this on budget according to the timeline? And then product is answering the why should we do it? Why should we do it now? And then for who? For who are we doing this? Are we doing this for customers who have been here for a long time? Are we doing this to get new customers? And then did it have the impact that we wanted? So actually analyzing the impact of our work. That falls on product. Now, the plot twist is that a lot of companies ask you to do both. And the better you are at project management, the easier your job as a product manager will be, even if you're not doing the role, just because you'll understand how we get stuff built. I think doing both is really common, especially in small companies. But realistically, project management is a skill that's so specific. You can use project management skills and certification to build software, like at Dyspatch, help with email production. You can also use it to help build $1 billion bridge somewhere. It's the same foundations, in the same way that product management can be used to build software or hardware products as well. So I guess it's confusing because they both have management in the name. Ultra confusing because none of them actually manage people, it's just manager of the product. Yeah, we're in for a rebrand for the naming, I think, in product. But ultimately, some companies will have you do both jobs together, but they are very distinct functions with different goals in mind.
Very
and they
cool.
do require slightly different skills.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So then maybe there's the other side to this that is less on sort of the management side of it and more on, you mentioned earlier that you're involved in a lot of interviews. I have two kind of sub questions related to that, but the first one is, I'm sure a lot of the people that are hired at Dyspatch are hired into technical positions. So what does a director of product who's not technical, and I know the answer to this, but I'm curious on your side, why is there value in having somebody that's non-technical in when you're interviewing somebody for a technical role?
Yeah, so one of the things I've learned about hiring along the way, having done it for many years now at a lot of different companies, is that when we're hiring, we're not just looking at who can do the job as outlined in the job description. We're also looking for a candidate who's going to add something to the team that we don't have already. And at Dyspatch, we have a hiring process that I think we're all extremely proud of that does a really good job of having us evaluate not just, for example, your technical skills if you're an engineer, but also how well you work with other teams. So if you're an engineer, you're obviously going to work with product pretty closely. So it's normal that you would, or at least we think it's normal that you would talk to product managers so that we can assess how well what your experience is working with other teams, including product. Another thing that we like to do is have folks who aren't engineers talk to engineers during the hiring process so that the candidate gets to interview us as well. And this is super important. Like if you're going to get a job somewhere, you want to know a little bit about how the company operates, ask questions about what the process is like. And a big part of why, for example, product will interview an engineer is we save a lot of time at the end of the interview to ask them if they have questions for us. And we tend to get questions about what are the product priorities or what's the culture like at the company? And we're uniquely positioned to answer some of those questions so that they get the engineer's perspective and then the perspective of somebody who isn't on the engineering team. Because you're never just joining a company for one team or for the hiring manager. You're joining the company to help us build like the next generation of the products there. So it does take time, like we're asking a lot of the candidate to do an interview with us and with engineers, but then when they join, they have like a more detailed picture of what it's like to work at the company.
I love that. That's amazing. And just so you know, if there's anybody that's out there who's like here and they're in high school, or if you're on the stream and you're watching this and you're in university and you're in a tech role and you're like, what's a company that I want to go work for? I will say from personal experience, having worked with not only Vero in different roles, but Matt, the CEO, who's an advisor for High Tech U, with Brad, one of the co-founders of Said With Us. This is a wicked company to go and work for. They're doing innovative things in an innovative way. So it's not just the cool tech stuff they're doing, but they're also engaged in a big way in the community, like doing stuff like this at 4:30 in the afternoon, where I'm sure Vero should probably have been working for at least a half hour of this. And events like Startup Slam and Battlesnake and other community events where they recognize that there's more to being a company than just building cool stuff.
Something that Dyspatch has always made a priority is helping the community. Like when I joined Dyspatch, we actually had a High Tech U student working with us. I still keep in touch with her too. Hi, if you're watching, I don't want to say her name, privacy reasons, but Dyspatch has always had involvement in other programs too. So High Tech U and then Capstone through Camosin, which we really believe in is like the next generation of folks who are going to work in tech. They're in school right now, or maybe they're thinking about going to school for certain programs, and helping them get a foot in the door is really important. But I think like there are lots of companies in Victoria who are really committed to either having co-op students or high school students, or even just doing events like this. So a thing I'm seeing is tech in Victoria is super open and welcoming to folks, not even students, just people in the community who want to learn about what it's like and share a lot about their processes and like how we do hiring. Like we're pretty open about that. Alana, our recruiter, wrote an amazing blog post about how we recruit at Dyspatch, and anybody can read that. And I think if you were like hiring for your first job in tech, if you read that, you'd have a pretty good impression of what it's going to be like when you start talking to companies. And we're not unique by any means in Victoria, but I think it's great that a lot of companies are actually dedicating themselves to helping other folks join tech.
Totally. Well, even outside the box, like I remember this must have been 2017. I was looking to transition out of what I was doing now, and I applied at a tech company in town and I had zero experience in what they were looking for, but I had a degree in it. So like I kind of checked the one box, and they ended up like at the end of it offering me, and I was like, really? You're offering me this job? But it's one of these industries that, like you said, they're hiring for not just background and experience, but for fit within the company, for future contributions that you're able to make. So it's also one of those places where you have the ability to come in with a different background and be successful.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of my bosses' backgrounds, I'll give you some examples, or people I've worked with. Like I had a boss one time who's the most analytical person I've ever met, because he likes stats in his head. And he had a master's degree in musical composition, of all things. Totally a brilliant man and a brilliant communicator, and taught me way more than I even realized at the time. I worked with the CEO who was completely self-taught, like no university degree, no nothing, and he built basically $1 billion company. I don't have a technical degree, and on my team, folks with whom I work, some of them have technical degrees and some of them don't. I think it's really possible to make a degree or make a career in tech with any kind of training that you have. And even if you're self-taught, it's still one of the industries where it's not like to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school, you know? And like, thankfully, doctors have to go to medical school. It's probably a good thing. But in tech, you still can learn on the go or take courses or do apprenticeships or like these co-op programs and get a job, which I think is amazing.
Totally. So like we've gone down this angle, so I'm curious. So people that are on the stream or they're catching this on YouTube and they're saying to themselves, okay, I dig this thing. Like I'm not technical, but I like this idea of product. It seems like a good fit for me. Like what can they do? Because there's not like, you can't go and, I'm assuming you can't like go and do a product management or like a product design or whatever you want to call it. You can't do a degree in that necessarily. So how can you get experience or convince somebody like you to hire somebody into like an entry-level product role?
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming more common that there are some of these programs. And I think that the main thing is to do your research and figure out which ones are going to help you a lot. But the thing about product is because we're such like prolific communicators, like I mentioned the documentation thing, there's tons of product people out there who are writing a lot of blog posts, you know, like whether they're on Substack or on Medium, and they explain their whole thought process, their experience, what they're working on, how they make decisions on every possible granular topic. So if you're interested in product, it's really easy to do like a tiny bit of research and find a ton of resources. And then from there, if you decide that it's something for you, you could then find a course. I know that there are courses that are super specific to product design, and product design is a little bit different. There are lots of really good certifications for product design. And in product development, it's only just starting that there are like real, not necessarily a 4-year degree, obviously, but that there are courses that are taking that would definitely give you an edge on your resume. I think the biggest thing with product is to develop an interest or a passion in something and use that as a foot in the door. So let's say you're interested in health tech, having a background that will help a tech company that's doing health stuff, like a master's in public health or some kind of other degree that's in the health space, will help you get a degree in public or in a health tech company. Ditto with fintech. So I think pursuing whatever your passion is and then figuring out how you can actually use that as a way to translate into a career in tech is probably the best way, as opposed to trying to figure out which like product development degree you should do. I'd probably just say like, double down on whatever it is you're super passionate about, and then you'll be able to find a way in that way.
I love that. So Sixers Fan is back. All the questions. I'm so happy that Sixers Fan has come across. Can you see the question on there?
I can, yeah. Hi, Sixers Fan. Okay, one product I'm looking forward to make or design. I don't make designs. I work with an amazingly talented group of designers. If you're interested in design, I should maybe refer somebody to Andrew to come in here and talk about design.
Hey, there we go.
Design's so cool. So maybe I'll do that. One product I'm looking forward to making. Gosh, that's a tough one because I can't tell you too much about what we have in store. Maybe I'll tell you something that I've worked on lately that we're like super proud of, and that'll lend into the future because we're going to keep doing stuff like that. So in Dyspatch, when you join, you can basically create templates with starter content, email templates. So most emails have what we call like a header, you know, like the title of the company or the big thing at the top, like a hero image, for example. Then there's the contents, whether it's a receipt, a shipping notification, or an email newsletter from a brand that you care about. And then at the bottom, there's what's called like a footer, and it might have social icons in it and, you know, like an unsubscribe link. When you join Dyspatch, we have pre-made themes of content that you can just use, so you don't have to design your own every time. And what we're doing right now is we're using AMP technology. AMP is, you know, when you use Google Docs and you like reply to a comment and you open it up in your email and you can reply in your email without having to open up the Google Doc.
Yeah,
that's AMP. It's amazing. So what we're doing is we're bringing that to Dyspatch so that you can implement that in your email templates if you're a company without having to write the code. So the thing I'm most excited about, or that I'm most looking forward to doing more of, is building more of this starter content that has AMP in it. So we think of it honestly as like apps, but in email. So Matt, our CEO, talks about apps for email in Dyspatch, and I think that's the coolest part.
I love this.
I wish I should just share screen. Yeah.
You can if you so I'm just loading up I'm just like signing. Oh, I got my free trial. So like we can, is there like what is there a cool thing to showcase on here? Can you see, by the way?
Yeah, I can definitely see. Yeah, I mean, you're already doing it. So if you can go to create a template, I get to watch you do this. So in product, we call this user experience research, where we watch people use the product. We take notes and then we make changes based on like how easy or hard it was. So right now you're all doing product management with me, watching Andrew create a template for free trial.
Let's call this Q&A corner live product testing. All right, here we go.
And so in product right now, I'd be looking at like, how long is it taking Andrew to do this? Is he getting stuck anywhere? How long is the product taking to actually load the next page? Which fields is he filling out? Because not all of them are mandatory.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, how will Andrew decide which theme to use? I would say go for Lightning.
I was going to say, I wish you could see what they actually looked like before you got in there. Yeah. Okay, great template.
So we're working on that. Our designer would tell you it's in the work. So even that, like that kind of feedback, we would then use to prioritize what's coming next. So this is what we call the visual editor. And then you get to watch Andrew basically build a template. It's going to take like 10 seconds.
This is much cleaner than it used to be.
Super slick. Like what we've done in the last 6 months in here, the team has just come up with so many cool ideas, and we've made a lot of changes that make it really easy to use. I'll show you a couple of new things, Andrew, that you haven't seen after you build the template.
Very cool. Okay, I got my template.
All right. So in the top right corner there, there's a little, what we call like the view toggle. See that little lightning bolt? That's going to show you the AMP version of the template, where if you scroll down, see that? You can reply to a comment just like Google Docs, but in Dispatch. So this is the moment where like your mind should be blown, because this is pretty impressive, and there aren't a lot of ways that you could do that except in Dispatch, unless you're Google and you're building, Google Docs emails. But basically we brought that same functionality to Dispatch. So if you are one of our customers or a company looking to send emails, you can do this.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
I love this. And so now how do I go to the next step? So I go preview. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll save with no subject. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, please don't ever send an email without a subject line. A big part of what we do in Dispatch is try to like help people not make mistakes in email. So this is why we take you to this page where you actually have to test that your email looks good on the phone and on the computer.
That's smart.
We encourage you, please test this before you send it, so you don't send a bunch of typos. Because like we've all received an email from a company that says like, disregard our last thing, we made a mistake. Like we're trying to make sure that never happens to our customers. So here you get to test it out. So Dispatch does a ton of stuff. We do like the creation, we do the collaboration, which you're almost there. We do the preview and testing. We store assets, so you don't have to have them in a bunch of different places and add them to the email later. It all lives in here.
Oh, and look at that. You can just like look at it in each of the different views. Ooh, I like this. This is very slick. I gotta say, like, it's been a while. I think the last time that I logged in was on the old Dispatch, or the old Send With Us, and it was not this slick.
Oh yeah, it's been a minute then. Send With Us is amazing. It was a product that was developed for developers to move really fast. So if you have coding knowledge, Send With Us works great. It also gives you a lot of like analytics and detail. What I like about Dispatch is that it's super fast to use. So if you need to create an email, I mean, we're all watching you do it, like you're gonna be done in 1 minute. So within a couple of minutes, you can create an email template that looks great and works on mobile devices, and you can edit the content super quickly and send yourself a test if you want. Yeah, if you click there, it'll send you an email of your email.
Ooh, subject. Ooh, see, that's good error checking for me. I can't send it with a blank subject line.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. Such an edge case. Most people who are building
will probably throw a subject line on there. Yeah, I can see that. Test email. Test. Save.
It's fun to watch you do this, though. I wasn't being glib when I said this is part of the role, is like watching people do stuff.
So what's this, though? Why would I need to get approval? Who would need to approve this?
Right. So let's say you're working in a pretty big team and you're like either designer or the marketer, and your boss or, head of legal or head of design wants to review the template before it goes out to make sure that the unsubscribe legal link is the right link, or to make sure that the design matches the spec. what you would do here is to sign it for approval to that person, explain like, I made the copy the right copy, or I made that design change that you wanted, and then they approve it, and only then can you send it out. So this is to make sure that no errors go out, and that all the people who want to have final say get final say before it goes out.
That's a good idea. But then I guess it's just whoever on that workspace is the approval person. Oh, okay.
You'll be able to approve it now because you created and you're the admin. But a big part of why we show this in the trial is that most of our customers are like their teams, right? They're not just the one person. And we want to promote that feature to them when they're trying it out during the free trial for 7 days.
Oh, I wish that I jumped in here. I like this tutorial idea. That's smart. That's super smart.
Tutorial is one of my favorite things in Dyspatch, and this is an example of like looking at what people are doing in Dyspatch and then making a decision based on feedback from customers and watching data. So we knew that people were creating trials, but not enough of them were creating a template, and we wanted more people who come in and create this account to like actually create a template. And this actually was a Hack Week project. Hack Week is where we have a whole week where teams can work on any kind of project that they want. And as long as it's finished within the week, they can do it. And this is actually our CS team built this. Tutorial, which is a tutorial of Dyspatch. And this is the kind of feature where once you implement this, of course it's more starter content, but it also makes it really easy for people who are new to Dyspatch to figure out how to use it. And therefore, more of them create a template, which is good for us.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of using the platform for the tutorial, because you could just send somebody to a README, right? Or like a website for them to go and find, and they're probably never going to go and do it.
Yeah, it's true. We do have really good docs, and that's like a super valuable thing to have if you're ever building a product. Make sure the docs are there, because most people don't want to reach out to support. If they need help, they want to just be able to figure it out on their own, either in the product or by reading through your stuff. So a big part of what we do is make sure that the docs are like super up to date, super helpful, and that they can help anybody figure out whatever problem that they're having or learn how to use some of the features.
Very cool. And then you literally just go, and so when I approve this, I can then download so where's my approval? Let's see. I'm going to try and figure this out. Where am I going to assume? I'll go back home. I'll go into here.
Yeah, there are a couple places. I won't spoil it for you, but you have two options with the template. So you can export the code and paste it into your ESP. Dispatch doesn't send emails. We just do the creation part for like a ton of reasons. But or you can have it automatically get sent to your ESP with an integration. We have an API for that. So it's kind of up to you. Oh yeah, there you go. You found it.
Okay, so there I can approve that. Now it's published, and now I can download that, and then. Ooh, handlebars. That sounds exciting. Is that just HTML? Is that all that is?
It is just HTML. Yeah. All these are like the code-specific version that's particular to ESP. So most of our customers are obviously using like Salesforce, or Salesforce is the most common one for our customers that are doing B2B. But if you just want the code, then you just copy paste it and you can input it into, like, let's say you're using MailChimp, you could use that too.
And then I just go in. And I just go in here and I open this, and bam!
Yeah.
Bam! Look at that. I got some stuff here that's obviously because that's not connected to anything, but I love that.
Yeah. The AMP does require you to know what you're doing on the sending side, so you need a platform that's like supports AMP. But our customers, for example, use Braze Analytics, and they support AMP, and they give you really rich analytics on everything that's happening once you send the email, like how many people opened it, whether it led to them purchasing something down the road, like all of that.
So, but could you as a user, if you just want to have so if you're out there, if you're in Twitch land, or if you're on YouTube and somebody's like, oh man, I really like when I send that Christmas card message, I'd love if I could like create this really cool template that I could send and I could make sure that it looks good for everybody. Could somebody just go and use the platform and like create a really sort of more simple thing that just they can tell looks good and send it through their Gmail or their Outlook? Or is this really an enterprise solution for sending emails?
I mean, you could. There are probably better options if you're trying to build a Christmas card, because we don't have like a Christmas card template. Could you? Yes. We do have some free templates that you can use even without a free trial of Dyspatch that are just like open source email templates. They're extremely popular with SMBs, and they include everything from like a receipt, shipping confirmation, that kind of thing. It's in what we call like the Dyspatch playground. If you wanted to build a Christmas card, I mean, there are probably better options out there. But
All right, you heard it here, everybody.
For companies, yeah, like we built this for companies, not for individuals.
You heard it here. Build your Christmas
spirit. There's nothing to stop you. You could. I built an email in Dyspatch a little while ago to celebrate the work anniversary of somebody I work with. I've done it a couple of times now, and I just put in like lots of pictures of their pets and then sent it to everybody at Dyspatch, like our coworkers. So, anything's possible.
It's a very meta decision as well to use the product that you are designing to send to another member of your product team. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we use our product to send messages to our own customers, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
That has like a name in tech. It's called dog fooding the product. Like, eat your own dog food to know that I don't know.
No, that makes sense. It totally makes sense. Like if you're gonna be an email templating company that then sends terrible emails that do not use the product that you're creating, then that doesn't speak well to the product having any good longevity at the end of the day.
Yeah. Also, you want to be testing out your product all the time. So I guess I should have mentioned that at the top of the chat, that a lot of what we do is actually just test our product and make sure that it's working, and look at what a customer did, so somebody like you testing, and then compare it to what we thought the workflow was, and then see if we can make it easier. Like the part where you were figuring out, where do I go to publish this or get the code? Like, I have like a little mental checklist now. Maybe we can make that easier.
I love that. That's amazing. So, okay. So it sounds like, so that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for walking through that process. We did some live product management, product design. Yeah. If you're interested in this now, you've gotten a little taste of like the real thing. And you got to see me fumble around a platform trying to create something. And now I will get marketing emails from Dyspatch, and I will say, I'm super glad that I'm getting these, because I know the people that put a lot of work into these.
You can very easily unsubscribe, but check it out. Yeah.
So we've got just a couple minutes left. So if we've got people that are on this stream, and we got some new people that have popped in, and I know it's always interesting. I sit watching these streams and I'm like, oh, there's not very many people in chat. But then I find out that there's been like 20 people that have just been lurking, watching in the background, not doing anything. And I'm always super excited. So if you're lurking, please stop lurking. Throw your questions in the chat, because we've only got a couple more minutes on for our chat today with Vero Best, Director of Product at Dyspatch. And if you're not sure where you are right now, if you just turned on your computer and then this showed up, welcome to Q&A Corner. We're here talking about all things product-y and product management-y and all things dispatchy. And if you don't know what any of that means, then watch this on our YouTube channel, which I'm putting a link to in the chat, where you'll be able to catch this entire stream, or you'll also be able to catch it in our Q&A Corner collection alongside a ton of other awesome interviews that we have been doing over the past year now, because we started doing this at the start of COVID.
So awesome. Such a good resource for people who don't know much about tech and are just like trying to figure out what the different roles are, different companies are. I think it's an incredible resource.
Yeah, and it's super cool too, because you see there's a lot of these little things that happen, but they're really sporadic. It's like somebody does in April, somebody does a talk, and then it's like 6 months until somebody else does a talk. But it's also, I had a conversation with someone the other day. It's always CEOs that are on these kind of things. Like, it's always the person at the very top, which is cool. And for people that are striving to be the CEO, it's awesome. But there's so many other positions in a company that are not CEO. There's director of product. Like, you didn't know that job existed. Maybe this stream video will help somebody realize earlier that they could do the job that you're doing, right?
Oh, it's so true. Like, I think the really public jobs are obviously CEO, engineers, but did you know that we need people to write content, like tons of content, write blog posts, write the copy on the website, explain what Dyspatch is to users, write docs to help people understand how to use it. We need people to help us figure out how to sell Dyspatch, and that's sales, obviously, like pure sales, and also marketing, like how are we going to explain to the world what we do, which features will resonate. We have an incredible operations team at Dyspatch, and you think it's just HR, but it's not. It's like making sure that everybody's a computer that works, making sure people get paid, setting up partnerships for our company, making sure that rent in the office gets paid, not to mention the HR stuff that I care about so much. That's like making sure that we have good policies, like anti-harassment at work policies, parental leave policies. Even our healthcare plan requires people to put that together, and our health plan is amazing. And that's because somebody who thought about the employees of the company put it together. So I always call out our operations team, and every tech company needs people in operations to help everybody else. God, I could go on and on, but really the jobs you think of are the surface of the iceberg, and the iceberg is underneath the surface of everything else it takes to power a tech company.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. And we've been really lucky. Now we're lucky because we have somebody from product. We've had a customer experience person on. We've had Noah, so the former head of people at Dyspatch, was on our first stream of this year, who's now head of people at Gusto. We've had a couple of engineers and data scientists and professors. We're starting to cover, but I feel like I need to get a tech company accountant on. I feel like that's the piece that's missing. Need to upsell some of these really cool jobs, because accounting for a tech company is kind of cool. You're dealing with venture capital, and there's some interesting angles in there that I feel like people that are I don't want to be an accountant, but then maybe we can convince them that accounting is for them.
I think accounting is actually super cool. I'm not gifted in accounting, or a lot of math is not super innate for me, but I've worked with accountants who did, as you say, helping raise money, so venture capital, but then also imagine if you're a business and it's international, and suddenly you have to figure out how do we bill people in a country where people don't really use credit cards, in Europe, or what kind of taxes do we apply to different people in different parts of the world? How do we translate stuff so that it's legally approved, all of that? It's very complex, and I think very intriguing, interesting job. Just the compliance aspect of it is I admire people who do that, because it is challenging. Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. But we're not here to talk about accountants, although they're really cool. We're here for a couple more minutes to talk about product. So I'm going to give our audience, with my sort of second to last question, a chance to throw in their last question if they've got one. But my my big second last question is, so you hire a lot of people. You've seen a lot of people that have been really successful in the tech world. You've been all over the world with what you're doing. What are the maybe not the top, but what are some of the top qualities that you've seen in people that have been really successful that helps them to be successful in the tech industry?
You're not going to love this answer, because there's no one answer. Different combinations of skills are unique, and all of them are valuable. So, of course, it's really easy for me to answer and say outstanding communication skills, but those are valuable for any job in any industry at any point in your career. But tech really needs people who have all different combinations of skills, whether they're, technical skills or experience in research of some very esoteric area of research. I don't think that there's one thing that stands out. I think it helps to have initiative and to be a passionate person about something. But I don't think that tech requires any kind of specific set of skills or certain personality traits. I've just worked with people from all kinds of backgrounds and all walks of life, and all of them were really successful in what they were doing. I think, as I mentioned, in product, it's helpful to appreciate context changes and, to have an analytical mind and to working with other people. But some of the best product people I know are extreme introverts. And so there you go, right? They know when to communicate with other stakeholders, but in their personal life, they're introverts. So it's not a very satisfying answer, but I think just important to be passionate about something, but you get to choose what that is. There's no if you just do this, you'll be great in tech. It's you're you could be great in tech. Just, figure out what your path in is, basically.
I love that. That's amazing. Which means that the next question is probably going to be also not as satisfying, but it's the one that I throw to everybody at the very last question for the interview, which is, so I always cut from these streams 30-second to a minute. Here's the most salient advice that this guest had on how to be successful in tech. And I realize that kind of is a repetition of the last question, but there I was saying qualities. This is regardless of qualities, what is the most salient piece of advice that you could provide to somebody who's in high school right now and is considering a career in the technology industry?
All right. So the best piece of advice I would say is listen to future you. So like you in the future, what is she saying? You in 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 20 years down the road. If she's giving you advice, what is she saying? For me, using that future version of me as my mentor, as the person to help me make decisions, has been hugely valuable. It's made me trust my own instincts and listen to my inner voice more. But it's also made me realize that I can trust what I'm doing now, and because I have my own back, if that makes sense. But always ask yourself, like, future me, with what I'm doing today, am I serving her goals? Am I serving what she wants? Am I building the life that I want for future me with the decisions I'm making today? And I think that our own gut never really leads us astray. So that's one technique that's worked really well for me, is to ask myself if what I'm doing now is building out the life that I want for the future version of me who's giving me advice. Like, what would future Vero say to me,
I feel like I'm going to eventually just do like a clip show of like all of these pieces of advice, and then I might get like t-shirts made just for like all of these, like trust the future you. There's some gold ones, but that's amazing. Thank you so much for that.
I want to see the highlight reel with all of those, because I feel like that would be very, very inspirational.
And so good, right? Because it's like, again, it's people from all walks of the tech industry. I've got like CEOs, like all these people, but all the advice is so similar, which is basically it has nothing to do with the tech industry. It has to do with you having a passion and doing that, and knowing people and knowing yourself. And I think there's some wisdom that is across the ages, that people that have been successful in the tech industry know. And if you're out there in Twitch or YouTube land and you're watching this stream, heed the advice that you just heard, because you will not regret it. Future you will not regret it either.
I think so, yeah.
So with all that said, we're a little bit over our time, but I just want to say to all of you who tuned into the stream who are too quiet to say anything, that's okay. We love introverts, we love extroverts. Sixers fan, thank you so much for being here and throwing in all those awesome questions. Vero, thank you for being here. I'm so excited that we were able to make this happen and like talk about product in a really cool way.
Likewise, Andrew, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to catch up. And I just want to say, like, to the folks who didn't chime in and to Sixers fan, thanks, because we need more people who are interested in tech, coming from all kinds of backgrounds. And I love answering questions like this. So if you have any more questions, you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm all over the internet. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions and you don't want to put them in a public chat. I'm around.
Yeah, so if you do want to get in touch, if you go to the hightechu.ca website and go into our calendar, look for Vero's bio on there. There's a link to find her on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you can find her there. This video is also going to go up on YouTube, so if you throw any comments or questions that you have over there, if you see this later, I'll make sure that they get to Vero and that they're answered. And otherwise, just, stick around the High Tech U community. We're back tomorrow with Matthew Smith, CEO and co-founder of Mazuma Go, formerly DivDot. Then on Thursday, we're live with Caitlin Erb, an intermediate software developer with Workday here in town as well. So it's another awesome week, another triple header that has started off so amazing, and I know is going to continue spectacularly. So with all that said, Vero, thank you so much. All our viewers, thank you so much. Be kind, be safe, be healthy. And then Vero, I'll leave the final word to you as we say goodbye.
I mean, it's hard to top that. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great week. It was so nice to be here and to chat.
All right, bye, everybody.